DeMar DeRozan is a Sacramento King. Let me say it again. DeMar DeRozan is a Sacramento King. One more time. DeMar DeRozan is a Sacramento King. DeMar, I say it. DeMar, I like it. Monte McNair just pulled off one of the best days in Sacramento Kings history. And we're breaking it all down right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all off-season long. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News, and boy, is it good to be back inside the Golden One Center watching Sacramento Kings basketball. Tonight was day one of the California Classic, which ended up being the smallest thing that happened for the Sacramento Kings today. And look, the California Classic and Summer League every single year makes me impatient for the return of basketball for the regular season, even though it was only a couple of weeks ago that the NBA season actually ended. It's been months since the Sacramento Kings have played basketball, so I'm always impatient after the Classic and after Summer League. Now, with DeMar DeRozan joining the Sacramento Kings, oh my goodness, how in the world are we going to wait until late October to see this team in action? I'm already not a patient person. This is going to be horrible to go through this offseason now and have to wait to see DeMar and De'Aaron and Malik and Sabonis and Keegan Murray all in action together. You talk about a core. Ooh, that's a pretty good sounding core that the Kings have here in Sacktown. I said it during the introduction, and I'm doubling down on it. I want to emphasize it. I want to make sure you understand. Not only, of course, was this the biggest free agency signing in Sacramento Kings history, getting DeMar DeRozan. And yes, even though it's a sign and trade, I do consider it free agency because DeMar was here in Sacramento all day long. The Kings, yes, they had to negotiate a deal to free up enough money to bring DeRozan here, but they were negotiating with DeMar directly about the amount of money that they would pay him, and he had to agree to have that sign and trade go through to come here in Sacramento. To me, this is a free agency acquisition, and not only is it the biggest in Sacramento Kings history, this is one of the best and biggest days in Sacramento Kings history, period. Check this out. It starts with Malik Monk officially signing his new deal with the Kings, his new 4-year deal. Yes, we've known about this deal for a couple of weeks now, but he officially signed it. He put pen to paper today. So Malik Monk is back, right? Then you get a 6-time All-Star in DeMar DeRozan to choose Sacramento, the Kings, over Los Angeles and the Clippers, who were reportedly making a big pitch for him. And this isn't just the Los Angeles Clippers. This is the brand new stadium Los Angeles Clippers with Kawhi Leonard and James Harden on their roster, right? That is a very, very talented team that DeMar could have easily chosen to go to. Not to mention LA is home for DeMar DeRozan, but no, he chose to sign here in Sacramento. One, if that doesn't tell you that the culture is changing here in Sacktown and how Sacramento and the Kings are perceived around the league, if that doesn't say that to you, I don't know what can possibly prove to you otherwise. And number two, Monte McNair knows what the hell he's doing, right? I've seen the criticisms of McNair, and believe me, his work isn't finished, right? In fact, the Kings are still in a position to do more this offseason if they want to, and they very well could do more. There's some who believe the Kings will do more. So Sacramento's not done. Monte McNair's not done. But what he's been able to do to get this franchise out of the playoff drought, to pull off the Domantas Sabonis trade that he pulled off, then on top of that, to convince Malik Monk not just to sign for the first time, but to re-sign here in Sacramento and to make that decision early. And you're going to hear from Malik Monk on this podcast. He explains why he made that decision early for Sacramento. And then to follow that up with signing a 6-time All-Star in DeMar DeRozan and taking him away from his hometown in Los Angeles. Boy, I mean, Monty has hit, time will tell if this is a home run or not, right? We haven't seen it on the floor yet. I believe it's going to work. I believe the Sacramento Kings got significantly better today with this news, but we haven't seen it in action, so I can't necessarily call it a home run yet. But Monte McNair is doing here in Sacramento what very few, in fact, none, have been able to do before, and he deserves recognition and his flowers for that. So here's the whole DeMar DeRozan sign and trade that the Kings pulled off. A 3-team deal involving, of course, the Sacramento Kings, the Chicago Bulls, and the San Antonio Spurs. So the Kings get DeRozan on a 3-year, $74 million deal. Now, because of the sign and trade rules, the contract had to be a minimum 3 years. 3 years, $74 million. We don't know how that is split up. We don't know if the majority of the money is in the front of the contract and it gets cheaper as DeMar gets older. We don't know if the contract is backloaded, so it's cheaper early on. We don't know if it's evenly split throughout the 3 years. Plus, there are bonuses worked into this contract as well with both individual and team achievements that the Sacramento Kings could have or DeMar DeRozan could have over the next 3 years. So that is the deal. Meanwhile, the San Antonio Spurs take Harrison Barnes and his $18 million per year that he's being paid over the next couple of years, and an unprotected 2031 pick swap, meaning the Kings are not giving the Spurs a pick. In 2031, the 2031 draft, whichever team has the better pick, the Spurs get to choose that pick. So let's say the Kings are the better team than San Antonio. Well, the Spurs will just keep their pick. But if by 2031, the Spurs, who will have maybe Victor Wembanyama as the best player in the league at that time, let's say the Spurs are one of the top teams in the league and the Kings are just outside the lottery. Okay, the Spurs will take the Kings pick because it's better in that sense. So the Kings did not lose a draft pick, a first-round pick in this deal, but they will swap their draft rights in 2031 with San Antonio. And then the Chicago Bulls get Chris Duarte and a couple of second-round picks in the deal. So the Kings did not have to give up a lot at all in order to bring DeMar DeRozan here. I'm going to talk about Harrison Barnes in a little bit because he's an absolute pro, and I'm going to miss him. We're going to miss him here in Sacramento. I'll talk about him more in a second. But a astronomical upgrade between Harrison Barnes and DeMar DeRozan in so many different ways, and you didn't have to give up assets in order to accomplish that. So, like I said, the Kings might not be done. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. But I want to talk about DeMar DeRozan, of course. There's so many things about DeMar that we could talk about. And believe me, we're going to hash out these conversations over the next few weeks. Hell, we have months to fill before we'll actually see DeRozan in a Kings jersey. So we have plenty of time to talk more and more in depth about how DeMar will fit with certain players and in Mike Brown's system and blah, blah, blah. But I want to address two things with DeMar, at least tonight. Number one is his age. DeMar will be 35 by the time this season starts. So he's up there in years, right? 35 is pretty old by NBA standards. That means he will be well on his way to 38 by the time this deal comes to an end. I think it's fair to say that the best years of DeMar DeRozan are behind him. But that's okay for this Kings team because they're not signing DeMar DeRozan to bring him in to be the absolute superstar like the Toronto Raptors looked at him as when they were trying to win a title a handful of years, 6+ years ago, right? That's not the DeMar DeRozan that the Sacramento Kings are looking for. However, the Kings are looking for DeMar to be similar to what he has been not just over his entire career, but especially recently as he's past 30. DeMar has averaged 20 or more points per game in his last 11 straight seasons. On top of that, the last 3 seasons, he has played 74 or more games. He played 79 games last season, averaging 36 minutes per game. This guy is playing all the time, and he's playing a boatload of minutes every single night. He has not missed he has not played less or fewer than 60 games in a season in his career. He is available. And I'm going to back up a little bit. Over the last 3 seasons, by the way, that he's been over 30 and playing 70-plus games at 36 minutes per game, he's averaging 25 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists over those 3 seasons. So he's still putting up numbers, and he's still efficient despite being this old. I mentioned the fewest amount of games in a season he has played in his career is 60. He's played 70 or more games, 11 seasons of his career. So I'm not worried about DeMar DeRozan's age. I'm not worried about DeMar DeRozan's availability. I'm not worried about DeMar DeRozan's injury history because there really is none. He plays and he puts up numbers and he provides the Sacramento Kings with a lot of what they need. That transitions us into the second thing that I want to talk about, which is DeMar DeRozan's fit. It is absolutely fair to question DeMar DeRozan's fit in the Kings offense because it's not seamless, right? You think, what do you surround De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis with? Shooters, guys that space the floor, that stay out of their way and can knock down three-point shots. We've seen that over the last couple of years in Sacramento, and it turns out the Kings have needed more. The Kings have needed more of what DeMar DeRozan can provide them. He doesn't address the Kings' continuing need for more wing length, athleticism, and depth of the 6'8", 6'9", 6'10 variety. He's 6'6", right? He's more of a 2-3 than he is a 3-4. So maybe the Kings will still try to address that this offseason, and they still have the capabilities to do that. But what the Kings just added is the other most clutch player in the NBA next to De'Aaron Fox. The 2 clutchest players in the NBA in terms of clutch scoring over the last 2 seasons are now here in Sacramento. DeMar DeRozan gives the Kings a bucket getter straight up, no other way to put it. If the Kings need a bucket and De'Aaron doesn't have it, or De'Aaron's getting double teamed, or De'Aaron is hurt, or whatever the case may be, DeMar DeRozan can be that guy. Hey, it's late in the shot clock and the Kings had to give the ball up, or De'Aaron had to give the ball up. DeMar can create and hit a shot for himself in isolation from mid-range or wherever on the floor with 4 or 5 seconds left on the shot clock. Hey, the Kings need a clutch bucket. Of course, DeMar DeRozan is that guy. Hey, the Kings are reeling and on the wrong side of a big run and just need to stop the bleeding. DeMar DeRozan can be that guy. The Kings needed Harrison Barnes to be that a number of times, not just last season, but over the entire time that Barnes has been here in Sacramento. And sometimes Barnes can do it. A lot of the times, I thought Barnes actually did a pretty good job of it. DeMar DeRozan is going to be able to do it every single night, multiple times a night, if the Kings need that from him. A certified bucket getter, a mid-range master who also has an elite ability to get to the free throw line. He has averaged 7 free throws a game over his last 4 seasons. The Kings can turn to DeRozan for clutch scoring, buckets, timely buckets, as well as veteran leadership, as well as a high basketball IQ, someone that they can lead on and help carry them through the struggles and the unknowns of the dog days of the regular season. Or when the Kings get back to the playoffs, DeMar DeRozan's been there a time or two. He knows what it takes to win a playoff series and to get the job done. And on top of all of that, even though DeMar DeRozan is not a great three-point shooter, it's the biggest weakness to his offense. He's a 29% career three-point shooter. He shot 33% from three-point range last season. He also shot 39% from corner threes last season, and his catch-and-shoot three-point numbers are not terrible. DeMar DeRozan knows how to play next to a guy like De'Aaron Fox, or knows how to play with a Domantas Sabonis and not get in their way and not clog the paint and still be able to space the floor enough to keep defenses honest and make them pay if they do leave him to go double team Fox or Monk or Keegan or whoever is attacking the basket. Plus, what DeMar DeRozan is going to do for Keegan Murray and Keegan's growth, I think, is astronomical. Right? I think DeMar DeRozan is going to be phenomenal for helping Keegan develop that next level to his game, which is being able to create off the dribble and maybe hit a mid-range jumper or two himself. This is just an unbelievably exciting pickup for the Sacramento Kings. And honestly, if we're talking about comparing DeRozan's defense to Harrison Barnes' defense, there's an argument to be made that DeRozan is a slight upgrade defensively over Harrison. At the very least, I think it's a push, or it's pretty even. I want to talk about Harrison Barnes a little bit more because I got to show him some love. I want to talk a little bit more about the Sacramento Kings not being done. They have more options and what I feel Monte McNair is going to do from here. Plus, you're going to hear from Malik Monk, and we have to talk about the California Classic games that happened today. The Kings played 2 different games today. We'll talk about it all in just a second. Before that, though, I want to let you know that today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home some huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. There's no question that the Sacramento Kings significantly improved from Harrison Barnes to DeMar DeRozan. No question. That's just the reality of the situation. However, the Kings lost a good one. Harrison Barnes is the definition of a professional, right? First off, he makes a ton of sense for the San Antonio Spurs. Do yourself a favor. Go and Google Greg Popovich, Harrison Barnes. You'll read a bunch of articles from when Harrison Barnes in 2019 played on the Team USA national team, and Greg Popovich was coaching, and it talks about how much Pop trusts Harrison and loves Harrison and appreciates Harrison. Harrison is bringing an unbelievable veteran presence and steadiness to a young, up-and-coming Spurs organization that also added Chris Paul, 2 of the best leaders and most respected veterans in this league, joining Victor Wembanyama, Jeremy Sohan, and the core that they have over there in San Antonio. It makes so much sense for the Spurs. Now, initially my gut told me that the Kings were going to try to move Kevin Huerter over Harrison Barnes, and maybe they tried to. We'll never know. But it makes sense that the Spurs, it would have made sense if the Spurs wanted Kevin Huerter too, because they were the 3rd worst three-point shooting team last season. They could use some shooting. But Harrison's veteran leadership and just his, it makes so much sense for Greg Popovich. Doesn't surprise me that the Spurs went after him. So, of course, wishing Harrison the best of luck in San Antonio. But he's a total pro, ultimate team player, beyond loved and respected in that locker room here in Sacramento. He provided a steadiness and a consistency at a position that notoriously has been tough for the Sacramento Kings to fill, and he did it through years of crap before the Kings finally got good. He is the longest tenured Sacramento King, or was the longest tenured Sacramento King on this roster, with the exception of De'Aaron Fox. And now that is no more. Now Fox is the longest tenured King by a long, long, long margin. And on top of that, Harrison and his wife, Brittany, are absolute icons in the community. Just total superheroes. They do so much for the Sacramento community. He wins awards and gets recognition for his work with the community every single year. And on top of that, he's involved in the Players Association. He's so respected around the league, period, that he will be missed. I had the opportunity to chat with him and get to know him. His son, his daughter and my son were born on the exact same day, which was kind of a cool thing that we shared. I really enjoyed covering Harrison Barnes. There were times, of course, that he was frustrating. We went through a lot of that last season when you didn't really know he was on the floor or he wasn't doing enough. But I can put all that aside to wish him the absolute best in San Antonio and understand what the Sacramento Kings have lost in Harrison. And I wish him absolutely nothing but the best. But now the Kings look forward, right? You've got DeMar DeRozan. Now what? You still need wing depth. You still can improve this team. Kevin Huerter is still on your roster, and I believe the Kings would still like to move on from him. On top of that, you do still have your pick, your 2025 first-round pick tied up with the Atlanta Hawks. You now have the 2031 first-round pick tied up with San Antonio in this pick swap. But other than that, you have control of your first-round picks. You have assets to do more. So do you do more now? Do you go out and still target a Kyle Kuzma? It's still possible. And if you got Kyle Kuzma, boy, that would be one hell of an offseason for Monte McNair. But maybe you still look at Brooklyn, Cam Thomas, Dorian Finney-Smith. I think it's more likely at this point, if the Kings are going to make more additions this offseason, I think it's more likely that they look for depth pieces like of Dorian Finney-Smith than they look for another starter like Kyle Kuzma. That's just my read on the situation, because knowing what I know about Monte McNair, I'm sure if he has the opportunity to improve this team right away this offseason that he can't refuse, he'll go for it. And he's proven to be keeping his eye out on whether it's Markkanen or Ingram or whoever the case may be. But it's very much up Monte McNair's alley to hold on to these assets. Maybe you make a minor improvement here or there to bolster and reinforce the depth of this roster. And this is the main core that you bring into training camp with you, right? And then you get the context of the start of next season. Maybe Sacramento is firmly back in the top 5, top 4 conversation of the Western Conference, but you still are one piece away from truly putting yourself in contendership status, right? I think about the Denver Nuggets, right? A team that was really, really, really good. They go out and add Aaron Gordon. They win an NBA championship. Granted, it didn't happen right away, but they added that Gordon missing piece, and that put them into true contendership status. Monty can hold on to the assets that he has right now. Trust that adding DeMar DeRozan to this group, bringing Malik Monk back, adding DeMar DeRozan, plus the drafting of Devin Carter and maybe one more piece or two, this team is good enough to get back into the playoffs and probably win a playoff series. Okay, you feel that. You're comfortable riding with that until the trade deadline. Now you have the context of 40, 50 games. Or you go through the entire season, you go through the playoffs, see where you're at, and then next offseason make a move. That might not be what you want to hear. That might be frustrating if you're like, I've been patient long enough. If the Kings need to strike now, DeMar DeRozan is good, but they can do more. Go out and do more. Go win right now. I understand that. They are trying to win right now. But Monty might feel, and I honestly kind of agree with him, if the route he wants to take is, again, holding on to these assets and seeing what this new DeRozan, Fox, Monk, Sabonis, Murray core can be, and then looking to add on to that, if that's the play, I understand that completely for Monte McNair. We're going to break this down and talk about this a lot more as this offseason goes on. This certainly won't be the last time we're chatting about it here on Locked On Kings. All right, now let's hear from Malik Monk. The day started in the Kings practice facility attached to the Golden One Center here. We finally got the opportunity to speak to Malik after he put pen to paper officially and signed his new 4-year deal with the Kings. We got to talk to Malik, and he was fantastic, as usual. I have 4 different audio clips or clips here from Malik that I want you to hear. The first is Malik talking about how Sacramento is just, it felt like home, and that's why he chose to re-sign.
Like I said, it felt like home here. It just felt right. Everything felt right. I don't go anywhere, feel uncomfortable. I go everywhere and feel comfortable, and that's a home, I feel like. So I'm back.
What was this experience like for you, though? You talked a little bit at the end of the season about, for the first time, being in this position. How enjoyable was it to be as wanted and to come back?
Yeah, it felt good. It felt good, man, because I never was in this situation before. It kind of felt good to just sit back and relax and let my agents do the work instead of me putting in overtime, trying to see if I would have a job. But, yeah, it's just great, man. It's a great feeling. I don't even know what to say right now.
Thinking back to when you signed your first contract to now, I guess, did you expect this kind of journey to happen? What's been the most rewarding part of it?
I expected it, not this long, but that was the most enjoyable part, man. The process of me going up and down, figuring out how to be a man, figuring out how to be an NBA player, and just figuring out how to be a better person too. And my brother helped me with that a lot. My mom helped me with that a lot. Coming here in Sac helped me with that a lot too. So that's why I came back.
So when did you know, like, all right, I'm going to be here?
Can't tell you yet.
On top of that, Malik not only chose to stay in Sacramento, he chose to do so early. He told the Kings he would be re-signing before the draft. And Malik explains that he's a team player. That's why he did it.
Being a team player, man. like I said, I just said it earlier. I could have took more money somewhere, but I said it felt home here. It felt like home here, and letting them know, letting the organization know early. It's the least I could do, for sure, because we need, I think, a few more pieces, and they looking for a few more pieces. So I think they're doing their job.
One of the big topics of conversation over the last season that Malik was here, and I don't think it's going anywhere, Malik Monk, starting shooting guard for the Sacramento Kings or still coming off of the bench. You know how I feel in the situation. I think he should start. Well, Malik does too.
Of course I want to start, but I'm coming here free-minded and do whatever the team needs me to do. But if I feel like I need to start, I might voice it because now I got a voice a little bit. I can say something that'll stand. But yeah, man, I'm still coming in free-minded and coming here to win games.
Maybe the most interesting part of that sound clip that I just played wasn't the fact that he said, yeah, I would like to start. It's the fact that he said, like, I feel I have a voice now, and if I will voice my desire or need to start if I feel like it's justified or if I feel like it's necessary. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out come training camp. But if Malik stays with that six-man role and Mike Brown continues to keep him there, one thing Malik's not concerned about anymore is the Sixth Man of the Year award or any NBA award for that matter.
You didn't win Sixth Man of the Year. We thought you would.
Yeah, I ain't tripping on no more awards with the NBA, man. I ain't messing with them.
Good.
No more awards.
Why is that?
Not a fair share.
So on top of everything going on, right, this was, like, I called it Operation Royal Saturday, right? A perfect 4 of 4. I wish I could do this in a parlay on FanDuel or something like that and actually make money off of this. But it was a perfect 4 of 4 day for the Sacramento Kings. You start the day with officially re-signing Malik Monk, right? Then you have your Kings 2 team, your second Kings team in the Chase Center spoil the debut of Bronny James. Bronny had 4 points, 2 of 9 shooting from the field, and was minus 15 in his debut for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I'm not going to pick on the kid because I think him playing in the league is cool. I think him playing with his dad, LeBron, in LA is cool. Of course, he got all the attention for this game. For some reason, the Bay Area didn't show up. I don't know why we don't just have the whole California Classic here in Sacramento like it should be. But Bronny had a bad game. Meanwhile, our boy Adonis Arms. Oh, yeah, if you didn't know his name before, you should know it now. 32 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals for Adonis Arms in his California Classic debut. He dominated. The Kings get the win over the Lakers. Any win over the Lakers is always a good thing. And then we have the Kings and Chinese national team here in Sacramento. Of course, right before that game starts is when it's announced that DeMar DeRozan is re-signing. Is signing with the Sacramento Kings. The Kings landed DeRozan. The Kings bring him out right before tip-off. It gets a huge ovation from the Golden One Center crowd. Sits courtside with Vivek Ranadive, Devin Carter, and then De'Aaron Fox and Rasay Fox eventually join him. So you have that cool moment. And then the Kings go on and beat the Chinese national team, led by Keon Ellis's 18 points, shot 3 of 6 from three-point range, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and a block. Mason Jones was fantastic tonight. He is the third two-way player for the Kings, a veteran in the G League. 19 points, 5 of 8 shooting from three-point range, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists. He told us after the game that since joining the Stockton Kings to now, he has lost 45 pounds. He looks fantastic. He's moving quick. He balled out tonight. And then you had Colby Jones, who struggled scoring the basketball, 6 points, just 1 of 6 shooting from the field, but did have 5 assists and a steal. I'll be completely honest with you. I was not nearly as locked into the basketball that was happening in front of me as I normally am because of obvious reasons, the DeMar DeRozan news and us trying to take that all in and paying attention to what he was doing courtside. But from what I did watch, Keon got off to a really strong start, scored 8 points really quickly, including a pair of three-pointers right away. So he was aggressive, looking to score out of the gate while also being the defensive presence that he was. That jumped off the page. Colby Jones did some things that I liked. Mason Jones, like I said, was very, very impressive. So I was happy with what I saw. I'll be paying a little more attention to what the Kings do in the Golden One Center when they take on the San Antonio Spurs tomorrow, and I'll be able to probably dive into that and talk about that a little bit more on Locked On Kings and the actual basketball happening in front of me. But what a fantastic day. What a just amazing day. Again, in my opinion, one of the best days in Sacramento Kings history, just with everything that went on. A monumental day, and now I want to hear from you. How psyched are you that DeMar DeRozan is a freaking Sacramento King? God, that's fun to say. Hit me up. Let me know at MattGeorgeSack. You can email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Can't wait to continue this conversation. Oh, the offseason is going to be so long now, but we'll get through it together. Appreciate your support. Talk to you on the next episode. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.